Welcome to the California Appellate Podcast, a discussion of timely trial tips and the latest cases and news coming from the California Court of Appeal and the California Supreme Court. And now your hosts, Tim Kowal and Jeff Lewis.
You've talked before about how your sister's hearing loss initially spurred your interest in helping the deaf and blind to gain better access to justice. So when you started this journey 25 years ago in your work on access to justice, what were the resources like and how have they improved?
Well, there wasn't much. When I was a young lawyer, because of my sister, and also because my firm had clients who were deaf. The California School for the Deaf was in Berkeley at that time. I was really struck with the fact that if you're deaf in the courtroom, you're excluded. You're completely excluded. You have nothing. You don't know what's going on. Basically, one of my very first projects was to get the Bar Association referral line put on a TDY so that deaf people could actually get a lawyer. And once you open that door and you see the barriers to justice the first time, you see them everywhere. And when I started working for the court, you remember those signs? You may be too young to remember, but there was a sign on every clerk's desk that said, "We're not allowed to give legal advice. Go away." Basically. So something as simple as, "Where do I file this?" They would frequently say, "Well, we don't have to tell you." And we got rid of those. I was lucky when I came on the Court of Appeal in particular because I followed the appointment of Justice George. And he very much agreed that without access, there is no justice. So that was really kind of the golden age of really pushing on the issues of the fact that many people are excluded, whether by language, whether by their hearing impairments, disabilities, or anything else like that. If they're not allowed to get into the court, that's a problem. And it still goes on, obviously. And it's been one of the big rewards of my career to be able to work on some of that stuff. I'll tell you, I know that you'd like to hear one more story. One was that when I was working on all those committees, both the State Bar and the Supreme Court Committee, we tried for years to get a budget line item in the California budget for legal services, to fund legal services at the community level. We proposed it one year before Governor Schwarzenegger, and he didn't sign it. We proposed it the next year, and he didn't sign it. The third year, we changed the title of it to the Sargent Shriver Access Issue. And we always believed that Maria Shriver probably had a little influence on the governor because he signed it. And it was the first time that California had ever actually funded legal services at the level. And it's been a line item ever since. And I think we're somewhere north of $400 million has been spent on legal services. So a very proud result.
You have just listened to the California Appellate Podcast, a discussion of timely trial tips and the latest cases and news coming from the California Court of Appeal and the California Supreme Court. For more information about the cases discussed in today's episode, our hosts, and other episodes, visit the California Appellate Law Podcast website at calpodcast.com. That's calpodcast.com. Thanks to Jonathan Caro for our intro music. Thank you for listening, and please join us again.